All right, we're live, Gary.
Give her that so we can see the screen.
We're live, Gary.
She's got the control of that, I think.
No, this is on your screen.
Gary?
Yeah, sorry, we got a screen issue. We're just trying to clear up.
Oh, we can see you fine.
Yeah, I know, but we have a block for you. Sorry.
All right, we're live.
Just click on the blue dot.
Okay, I know, I got it now.
Okay, now we're ready. Welcome, everybody. And thank you for joining the Hudson 7 Drinking Water Council virtual hybrid monthly meeting. Today is October 20th. My name is Gary Bassett. I'm Mayor of Village of Rhinebeck and also the chair of the Hudson 7. The Hudson 7 meetings are being recorded and streamed live on our YouTube channel page, and link to this page can be found on our website, www.hudson7.org. And a video of all our meetings and minutes are available to the public on the Hudson 7's website. If a member of the public who is online would like to participate during the public comments section of our meeting, please review our policies and procedures for public or written comment that are on our website. The Hudson 7 Council members, please control your own mute button. Good practice would be to mute yourself if you're not speaking to avoid background noise and feedback. And if you wish to speak, please raise your hand. I will call on you. Before you speak, please state your name and municipality for any of our audio listeners. So in attendance tonight, we have in the room, we have Nick Butler from the town of Esopus. We have Randy Allsat, representing the city of Poughkeepsie. And we have Bill Carlos representing the town of Poughkeepsie, and myself, Gary Bassett, representing the village of Rhinebeck. And online, virtually, we have Paul Malrose. Hi, Paul. Devin.
Hi.
Devin, are you there? Brad Barkley from Dutchess County. Rebecca Martin, our wonderful coordinator person for this. And I think that's it for everybody. And we have a quorum. So with that, I'm going to call the meeting to order. All right, minutes. Everybody should have received here the voting members, the minutes from 9/15/2022. I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. So passed. All right, Rebecca, since you're driving, I'm going to do the communications piece. Is
Oh,
that
no,
okay?
I'm not
You're
driving.
good?
I'm sitting. Just
okay.
No, I'm not meeting and driving, but go ahead
Okay.
and do communications. That's fine. Unless you want me to, they're right here.
No, go. It's up to you. Go ahead. You do such a great job.
Okay. So we have 3 communications this month. All full copies are in your source materials. Diane Dintruff wrote wanting to alert the Hudson 7 about the Wallkill River Watershed Alliance that met on Zoom on September 29th, and reminding the group that the Wallkill feeds into the Rondeau Creek and moves out to the Hudson River. She also wrote to ask a few questions about saltwater. How are saltwater battery storage units expected to evolve? Will saltwater batteries, just gonna let Dan in. Dan Shapley is on his way in. I'm sorry, so will, where was I?
Saltwater
Will
batteries.
saltwater batteries become a safer, less disruptive, and less expensive power alternative, especially for coastal urban areas than power grids? How does producing and moving power storage units compare to moving power both locally and globally? And 2, will the US win the race to effectively utilize the 97% of the Earth's water that is salt and begin to regain climate change leadership on the world stage? And then
Rebecca, can I interrupt before you go? Is there anybody that has any information or knowledge on the saltwater batteries? Any of our technical advisors or anybody have data on that? I'm just wondering if we should.
Gary, I'm familiar with the conventional on land battery systems.
Right.
And that's what we're now talking about, especially the ones that hook up to the grid. but
Right.
saltwater battery, I am unaware of that.
Me either. So Rebecca, I just would like to get back to Diane and tell her that, you know, her questions are very interesting and intriguing, but we do not have the information to reply.
Okay, great. And the third thing just came in the other day. It's actually posted on the Hudson Sevens website, on the meeting page near the agenda. The Ulster County Legislature, Laura Pettit from the town of Esopus shared this letter to the Public Service Commission regarding, I'm sorry, and also to the U.S. Nuclear Regulatory Commission with concerns regarding decommissioning of Indian Point. Quote, we share the serious concerns raised by residents and environmental groups regarding the decommissioning of Indian Point nuclear power plant by Holtec International, including their request to dump irradiated water containing radionuclide, tritium, and other contaminants into the Hudson River. We urge the Nuclear Regulatory Authority, the NRC, the Decommissioning Oversight Board, and the New York State Department of Conservation, the DEC, to ensure this blatant contamination of the Hudson River is prevented and all appropriate environmental safeguards are in place and strictly enforced. And in the letter, they note the Hudson River is a drinking water source. So I don't know how the letter was submitted as a awareness, but if the Hudson Seven wishes to respond to the Ulster County Legislature or not, your call, Gary.
I think it is a discussion point because in the past, we've kind of aligned ourselves to go on record for the nuclear plant and the deactivation and the contamination of the Hudson River. So I'm thinking we should write a letter or acknowledge the receipt of the letter and show the support. Is there any other comment on it?
May I
Dan?
speak? This is Dan.
Yes, Dan.
I just want to clarify that, I mean, the letter states, you know, quote unquote, environmental groups. And I just want to be clear, Riverkeeper has not, you know, we're actively part of that decommissioning process, but this release of irradiated water, while, you know, in a perfect world, we would not want, right? We don't want any kind of radioactivity released into the Hudson. It is, and I wish I could speak to all of the details, so I'm really going to give just a very quick overview as I understand it today. It's less than was released under when the plant was in operation. So it's not like an increase or a new thing. There is a treatment system that reduces most of the radioactivity, but this tritium cannot be treated by any technology that we're aware of. So there really is an alternative. And I don't, you know, quite honestly, I don't think there's any realistic risk of that water affecting your intakes because of the distance it would have to travel north on the tide. You know, so I just want to just be clear both on that, you know, Riverkeeper's not asking you to do this, and I don't think we were consulted by Ulster Legislature either. This is a concern that many residents have raised. It is a concern that's actively being discussed. So I don't want to downplay it, but it's also just to calibrate your own understanding of it. Those are a couple of facts as I understand them in terms of, you know, actual potential risk to drinking water. I don't think there's any real risk to drinking water from what's going on there.
Thanks, Dan. Gary, before we take Brad's question, I just wanted to let everybody in there inside know that Dan Shapley is here, obviously. Mike Forging is here. And we have someone on a 301 number. Can you let us know who you are?
Hi, this is Grant. Instead of calling in.
Oh, good.
Okay, great, Grant. Thank you very much. All right, Brad has his hand up, Gary.
Hi, Brad.
just wanted to say, as Dan is well aware, there was an initial issue where the plant was actually sold to Holtec, which is a different company that actually ran the plant to do the decommissioning. So there was a concern there that, Holtec was not as large and strong as a company. So I think this is just follow-up. But as Dan said, I mean, as I understand, there's already tritium that's leaked into the groundwater underneath the plant. So, I mean, it can't be totally eliminated, but it is worth trying to minimize it, certainly.
Brad, are you aware if the Dutchess County Legislature has done anything or as
They have
anything
not.
similar? They have
No.
not. Okay. All right. So while we receive this, I'd like to just say that it's good information to have, but given the information it just have is, I don't know if we need to respond. Is everybody in agreement with that?
Yes. Yes.
All right. Okay. All right. Thanks, Rebecca. Anything else come in?
No.
All right. Okay, we're going to move on. I did get an email from Europa saying that she was unable to attend this evening. And I know, and Brad, you're here from Dutchess. Would you like to take the floor, please?
Sure. Devin, could you share that file from Linda? You're certainly better at that than I am.
Let me give him some privilege here to.
If you would.
You got it?
So as we promised, County Attorney Linda Facori did draft an initial letter for us to consider and go over to see if this covers what we need in order to get a step ahead in hiring a legal consultant to make the changes we need to be able to accept and spend the money that we want to spend. Also to look at kind of what's the best long-term structure. And again, this would be funded through up to $19,999 from Dutchess County. That way staying under the $20,000 limit where we have to do procurement. The main things I wanted to mention were that at the end of the letter, Linda put in some questions that the Hudson 7 should consider. The timeline, I wasn't really thrilled with saying almost a year. I thought this could be done in shorter time. But again, it wouldn't mean that it would take a year. It just means that that's kind of the time frame you're leaving open. Again, we wouldn't want to send this out until after we have the legislators vote on it. Especially Dutchess County, because they're the ones who are funding this. And the other thing I would ask Hudson 7 is to go home and think about who attorneys you'd like to see us send this to. Now, our thought was we don't want to use any of the municipal attorneys. We don't want to use the county attorney because we don't want any even appearance of favoritism. So that's pretty much what I wanted to say. I know we just got this today. So if people want to take a look at it before discussing it, or what's your feeling, Gary?
Well, I think we need to review the letter, and I don't think
Absolutely.
anybody's had time to review the letter to comment and make a statement, but it's great that we could at least start reviewing it and have it on the agenda for our next meetings to try to move forward.
Great.
Given that we get the go ahead from both legislative groups, right?
I
Gary,
agree.
I just want to remind you that November is the Hudson 7's last meeting of the year. You don't meet in December, so just something to consider.
That's right. Well, let's put it on the agenda, Rebecca, so we can talk about it and try to get it moved forward, given hopefully good results from both counties.
And
Are
what
we
you've
gonna
done
put it on as
before
an
is
action
allowed,
item?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, no, yes. As
and
an
what you've
action
done
item.
before is allowed Gary to follow up and send out things. Where
I'm
Hudson
sorry?
7 basically gives you the approval to finish a draft and send it out,
Yeah, I
which
don't
is
think it's
something
gonna,
you could approve at the next meeting.
yeah, it's not gonna be a problem.
Right.
So for the future, you'll be following up with Devin and with Linda Fakori, who's our county attorney. This will be the last meeting I'm attending, and it's been a real pleasure to work with all of you. Tomorrow's my last day with the county, so it has been a real pleasure working with you. That's all.
Well, that's all. Signing off, right? But thank you, Brad, for everything that you've done to help the Hudson 7 move forward. And your interface with the county has been great. And, thank you for bringing Devin online and we welcome Devin to continue and fill your shoes, if that's possible.
Devin, you'll find Devin more than capable.
I'll do my best. No one can fill his shoes, but we'll get along somehow.
All right. So Brad, let's stay in touch.
Absolutely, Gary. Absolutely.
All right. Any comments? I know we haven't had a chance to read the letter. I don't know if anybody's had a chance to read it. I haven't. So we'll move forward on that. All right. Thank you. Public comment. Do we have any? Rebecca, is there anybody from the public on board?
No.
All right. So we'll move on. Okay. Let's get on to that old business. Hudson 7 Deal Coordinator position. This kind of led into it. What Brad just announced, what Brad just talked about is, we have all 7 MOUs in. What I've heard is it's on the plate for both legislative organizations to approve at their next meeting. No, I forget Dutch County. I think it's November
3rd.
3rd, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
And Ulster County is very similar to that.
17th.
17th. So by our next meeting, we should have a readout from that, which will give us then the final readout to do what Brad just offered from Linda to start the process of moving forward to becoming a 501c3, right? And hire legal representation. So that's
And the
kind of
advantage that we have is that it's already in our 2022 operating budget.
right. And well, that's the comment I was going to bring, is that when you mentioned the timeline, Brad, on part of Linda's questions, we really need to finish this prior to the end of that budget cycle.
Yeah, at least, invoice the money.
Yes,
So, but we talked about 19,999.
correct.
So, again, that's the money that we're talking about. And it is money in excess of the 3-year $25,000 commitment.
Right. And that budget cycle would end when for the county?
End of the year.
So how are we going to be able to, my concern is
We're going to
invoicing
move
that money.
quickly and we're going to
Yeah.
write a contract. And once the contract's in place, Owen can basically, save the money.
Okay,
Brad, did I hear you say that you would be sending the RFP out to the lawyers that the Hudson 7 select? Did you say that earlier, or did I misunderstand?
Well, what I said was, I think the letter should probably come from Hudson 7, and it's a letter of interest. So, but I was saying I would recommend that Hudson 7 individually and collectively think about, who do you want to send this to? Because it's not an RFP, so we can choose who we want to send it to. So that's what I would say, is people you've worked with, people who have shown an interest and who have time in their schedule, because we do want this done fairly quickly.
So what is it, Brad, exactly? What would you call this letter?
A
It's not an
letter of
RF
interest is exactly what
Okay,
what
thanks.
Linda has called it, and I always try and do what my county attorney says. Letters of interest for legal consultant.
Okay, good. We've been calling it RFP, so that's been just to
Right, but
clarify the
again,
record.
that's why we kept it under $20,000. That way we don't have an approval process, because that would take about 6 months. It could take forever to do an RFP. So this is a much quicker process. That's all I'll say.
Thank you.
so once, and the Hudson 7 would including the county, as we go forward with everybody's approval, would be the one voting on who we would use. Not
Absolutely.
yeah, it's not the county making the decision.
No,
It's Hudson 7 making the decision on.
it's
the
the county administering the money based on the Hudson Seven's decisions.
Yeah, but the Hudson 7, the county is a voting member of the Hudson 7.
After they pass the MOU, yeah.
After they pass the MOU, correct. So
You know,
they would also get a vote.
It's all mousetrap, right?
Yeah, right. But I just want to make it clear that it's not the county that's going to pick the representative that we choose. It's us that picks.
How are we sending, are we sending something out? Are we putting it in the paper?
So this is this letter of intent, letter of interest that Brad just showed.
Okay,
And this letter of interest, if we go through it, we can now add to it because there's some questions on the end.
I
We
see.
need to develop the list of people who we think are attorneys that can do this job for us.
Gary, Paul has his hand raised when the time comes.
Yeah, I can't see that. Who does?
Paul
Me.
Ambrose.
Oh,
Gary, I just wanted to know, Hudson 7 wasn't able to hire Ty and Bond because you couldn't do a contract with us. But now we're going to be going into the full-scale operation of Chippy, and would you be able to compensate any engineer that's going to monitor that?
so twofold, Paul. First off, we need to become an entity first. And then we need to set up, which we approved in our budget line items, have a treasurer, then have the account, and then have money in the account to do that. So the money that we've asked for now from the municipalities and both counties was to hire a coordinator. So right today, we don't have the money to do anything else beyond that. We have to go source that funds.
I would also say, Paul, that's one of the things that this first action of hiring this legal counsel would be to help set up the type of controls that the Hudson 7 as an entity would need to have contracts and to accept funds and to have staff. So without that type of framework, that's really what the intent of this first section of money is to have an attorney develop that framework.
It's good.
Does that answer your question, Paul?
Yes.
All right. Anybody else have any questions on this? But it is a short timeline. We're now down to next month trying to draft that. So I'm going to ask everybody. So Rebecca, could you just make an item to make sure that we get out to everybody to put on their thinking hats and recommend, and that we have a list to work off that we can send out as soon as,
Yeah, of course. Yep.
possible.
And like Gary, I just add, Linda did say she might have some time at the end of next week if we were able to get some quick amendments back to her.
Oh,
I leave that up to you.
okay. Oh. Okay. All right, any other questions about the Hudson 7 court?
we have the office.
Yes, the office is ready. I've been in the office too.
It's nice.
Yeah. All right, New York State Drinking Water Source Protection Program. Grant? Any updates? Are you there, Grant?
Hey, Grant might be having some issues connecting, but we don't have any significant updates right now. We are pulling together some maps. Specifically, we made a lot of progress on the contaminant map, and we are going to share that to you guys during the Drinking Water Source Protection Committee meeting.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yeah, now we can. Mike was talking.
Okay. Yep. Yeah, sorry about that. Had some unexpected things pop up. Yeah, so as Mike says, we are gonna work on some preliminary mapping of the contaminants that we discussed. We do want to schedule another subcommittee meeting and go from there. What we would like to discuss this time is just how to engage the all of the other municipal representatives in this process, and the best way to disseminate what we've been working on and solicit their feedback as well. This will obviously be a lot easier to do if I were not on my cell phone in Maryland. So I apologize about that, but we will be in touch. And Paul, I believe you saw my response to your inquiry earlier.
Yes.
Yes. So, unfortunately, this program is not necessarily designed to be a funding vehicle, but we can definitely help explore funding vehicles for you and see if there's any that would be able to fund a engineering study.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
So Grant, Gary, I have a question. One of your emails alluded to the fact that you had to go through a review process to release these maps.
Yeah.
How long do you expect that process to take?
Okay, so it's let's see, how do I phrase this? So because the Hudson 7 is so important to the state, we just want to make sure that we have all of our boxes ticked and make sure that everything is all good to go before we proceed on the mapping effort. So there are just some administrative checks that we need to do. I don't have a timeline for you, but I'm hoping to have a better answer for you by mid next week.
Okay, so you'll be setting up. Are you gonna send out the doodle poll for the meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
But before I do, or rather to help the process, is there a day of the week that people tend to like better?
No.
Or just send the poll out and get that response later.
Yeah, let's just do it by doodle and see what we can.
Okay. And one last thing to clarify, Brad, since it sounds like that you are departing and will be sorely missed, is Devin taking over your role entirely on that front as well?
Yes, Devin is. And
okay.
You'll find, Devin not only with his environmental background, but is also head of our GIS.
Oh, yeah. No, we've actually been in touch with Devin a lot for our other DWSP2 projects.
Well, I know then you know how good he is. So.
Oh, absolutely. He's the best. You should give him a raise.
That's the first time I've seen him laugh today.
Happy to be of service. Okay. Yeah, that's what I want to front. Again, it's been a hectic couple of weeks for me since I got back from vacation. So we're just trying to get back into the swing of things and make sure that nothing burned down in our absence. So yeah, we'll be in touch.
All right. Any questions for Grant? Okay. Thanks, Grant. All right, moving on. The next really is our issues on Hudson 7, which is Champaign Hudson Power Express. And the committee, I think everybody here has received the email from Jen on a status update in terms of they did a mea culpa. And mea culpa said that they anticipated a much shorter time frame for getting the results out, and they realized now getting into it, it's going to be a much longer process, and different testing takes different amount of time. Randy could probably attest to that. I don't have any knowledge of, but there's some tests that take longer than others.
Yeah,
right?
the GCMS, there's so many things we're trying to get tested for, but it's just got to take time. So I'm not surprised.
Okay.
It's interesting talking on the testing. What they did was they had testing around the plow. And that testing was tested before the plow started to get background data, and then during the plow, and they're finding hits. So there's going to be some contaminants found. The information I got was from Sean, and it's very limited. He sent an email to Dottie asking, hey, if we find fluorine at a value of 0.2 micrograms per liter, is that a problem?
Yes.
And so
I don't know.
I told her, don't answer that. I said, the question, what you should do is, when we get the data, we'll review it and see what we think of the impacts.
There you go. That's a good answer.
Yeah, so, yeah.
So our goal is, as I've explained to everybody, there's been a lot of questions about, are we just relying on them or are we going and getting a report? And I said, no. What we want is the raw data as well, so that we can give it to you, Randy, and Dottie, so you can take a look at the raw data. And then Nick, I don't know what, whatever, Ed, we're gonna share it. We're gonna share the data.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's just to them, but I'm not trying to avoid you. So whatever information that should be done,
Right.
we have the raw data. And I also think there's been some questions Paul brought up with, should we be sending it to other laboratories to be tested other than what they are doing?
I wouldn't do that. I feel comfortable that this is a qualified company that did it. It's not TDI that did the testing. They hired Normandy, and they seemed fairly knowledgeable of what they were doing. They're a very professional outfit. They have no interest in screwing around data. So I don't think that we need to send out things. And we didn't do any splits. I mean,
Yeah,
one thing
unless
we
they
could have
were
done was
subpoenaed
do
to hang
split.
on to it, they probably don't. You know, even if they-
Yeah.
if they finish thing out.
I think
I agree.
I think more of the question was TDI is hired from Go,
Yeah,
and so they're working for them and not for us, which
Right.
is the conflict that we had all along. So how much do people are questioning me? How much do we trust?
I would say
data.
it's a professional laboratory company. We worked with them on the ship when they were there, the barge. They were acted very professionally, very in line. They were getting their chain of custody paperwork done. So I'm feeling comfortable that the data is going to be what the best they could get us. I can't imagine, since already getting information from Sean saying, hey, we are finding some stuff. I'm not really sure what it means, but we saw find some stuff. So I mean, they're being upfront with us, and I think that if we didn't believe something, we could always go right to Normandy and ask for that
Okay.
report.
And that sample is right where the plow was in contact with the sediment.
That's the thing we don't. I mean, we really. The thing was they did the plowing, and when they did first, they were going to start it, and it didn't start, and then they had all kinds of problems. So we really need to coordinate where the sample was taken and where the plow was at the same time.
Well, that's what they said in the letter. They were still waiting on some of that data
Yeah.
to do the correlation of time versus sample.
Right.
Right, and then we still don't have the core samples yet. So
Right.
that's another issue that we're still waiting on.
Yeah.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but that was three different depths as well. Not all this, so like the turbinometer flows are all at 3 different depths, all the mountain samples. Samples were, so I understand why it would take.
Yeah.
longer than anticipated.
Yeah. I think they did so
straightforward.
much. We just need to get it all put together, and I'm glad if we can get them to put it together. I'm happy with that. I mean, and then we'll be able to review it and then come up with our questions. But one of the things Sean's saying is like, hey, if I see this hit, what does it mean? And Paul said, if it's 1.5 times background data, then it's a bad thing. Well, the background data is none. So therefore, and that's kind of what he said, but we're going to work through it. We got a meeting with them on Monday. 1 o'clock.
Yeah, you think you could.
I'll be there.
You gotta make it.
Yeah.
Good.
Gary, we have a question here, but 2 questions. One is from me to Randy. Randy, they had said that the report would be ready in a couple of weeks, and we're saying we're not surprised that it's taking longer. Why? Just out of curiosity, what?
The chemicals that we're monitoring for all take GCMS, highly expensive equipment to work. You probably have to do different runs, and there's so many of them, they can only do so many at a time. They have the holding. I think that they probably got the data now, but now they have to analyze it. They got to say, what does it mean? You got to tie that data into where the ship was or where the plow was. And so there's coordination between that. I think they're really working on that.
And
Okay.
Rebecca, I think we're gonna learn a lot on Monday when we have the call with them.
Yes, great.
as well. So,
Okay.
you
And
know,
Brad has his hand up. Go ahead, Brad.
Brad,
Sorry, you know me. Brandy, I wanted to ask, do you know amongst the different treatment plants, are there different tolerances? Are we gonna have to look at that too? I mean, for instance, is yours more sophisticated than any of the other ones? Do you know?
I would think mine's more sophisticated, the others are more conventional as far as removal of the stuff. We don't want to remove it. We don't want it in our water.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah, I
so-
know, I
so,
understand that.
The issue is going to be, we're going to look at it and we look at the data and we could say, hey, I think we're going to have to get the health department involved then to help us make decisions on what the health effects of these chemicals are. So
Well, I
it's-
know you're gonna have to send out notices, so.
Yeah, well, we're not going to let it go through our plan. Yeah,
Good, good.
you know, but you know, this could be the thing that kicks the ball, you know.
that's what we, I mean, that's what we said all along.
Yeah, I mean, if
Get the data.
they're showing that they're gonna kick stuff in our plants that we can't handle, and we shouldn't have to handle, then maybe that's a kill joint, you know, something kills it.
But I don't want to jump the gun until we have data.
No,
I
we
don't
gotta
want to
No,
pull the
excellent,
trigger and
excellent.
say we can't until we do the analysis.
Right,
Right.
you're gonna have to, we got some work to do once we get this number.
All right. I'm
So
gonna,
it's not gonna be quick.
no, Paul, do you have any questions?
No, not at this time. I agree with Randy. We really need to know where the sample was taken and when it was taken in relation to the lab. And I know that they weren't able to take samples at the end because they had to deliver them to the laboratory. So I'm a little concerned about that. And the other thing I'm concerned about is that the Hudson River was running very turbid at that time. If you remember, we had that big rainstorm. So it's going to be hard to really tell the difference, you know, was it from the rain or was it from them? So,
I think
Oh, yeah.
Dan is also here, just FYI. Dan, are you
I
off of
raised
mute?
one other point.
I don't know if Paul was done. I
But,
just wanted to make sure that you knew I heard you. Paul, are you finished?
yes.
Okay, go ahead, Dan.
Just one thing to flag, it strikes me that, you know, accounting at some point for how the time sequence from the testing they did through the analysis will also be important. Some of the testing that would happen if they do go through with construction, because the timeliness of results, like there won't be much influence, you know, actions stopping construction, slowing the plow, or actions at the intake if it takes, you know, 3 weeks for results to come in. So hopefully there's, you know, the indicators could be worked out, but I just think we should watch that as part of this pilot process, the timing
Yeah.
to results.
Yeah, I think we're all in agreement with that.
Great.
Thank you. All right, so just to remind everybody, we have a meeting Monday, the 24th at 2 p.m. It's for the subcommittee that was reviewing the data and working with TDI during the whole process to develop. So the subcommittee will have a first chance to hear directly from them on where they are and what they're doing and how we can coordinate. But from my interaction with all of them in the past couple of weeks, as Randy said, they're not hiding anything that I could tell. They're willing to share everything they have when they have it. Okay. All right, I'm gonna move
Gary,
on.
Gary, I think the subcommittee's been great. I would ask, I never had time. I would ask, I know it's an interest of Devin's. If Devin wanted to be on that committee, could he be added?
I don't have a problem with Devin joining us at all.
Well, I know he's very busy right now, but I thought I'd give him the option.
Yeah. So Devin, if you can reach out to me or whatever, I'll forward you the email. Or
Yeah,
Rebecca
I will.
or Rebecca can forward the email to you.
Yeah, happy to. We might want to extend that invitation then to Europa as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, good. All right, I'm gonna move on. Salt front update, Paul.
Okay, this is an important thing that's going to be a big problem in the future. And this group has done some great planning, and planning is going to have to be done for this too. And, you know, it's one of those things where your children are going to say either, what were they thinking? Why didn't they do anything? Or, boy, they were smart and actually took action. So that's just my words of wisdom. But we've had 3 meetings so far. I initiated them. Almost everybody in the world has attended them. We had a meeting in January, May, and on September 28th. At the meeting at the 28th, Randy presented some data showing that the salt front had reached the Poughkeepsie intake in August. Thank God we got that big rainstorm, and it dropped very quickly after that. What we did was we presented a scope of work to DEC, and there were 3 components. One is to develop a hydraulic model so that we can tell in the future where the salt front's going to be based on climate change and a lot of other information. And the next one was to see how the salt would affect habitats in the area. Obviously, as you might have more salt marshes, and the plants might not be able to tolerate the salt, and you might get other types of plants. The other thing was we recommended an engineering study to determine if we get salt in the area, what do we do? And this is the big thing, is there's so many things. And one of the big points is that if we had to go to RO, we're talking about spending $20 to $70 million. So we really have to think of other alternatives. And that's where the thing comes in. You know, do you want to build another reservoir? Do you want to buy water from New York City? All those things have to be really sorted out. So anyway, Jim Tiernan, who is the Deputy Commissioner of Water Supply Protection, was very helpful. And he felt that the first 2 stages, the hydraulic model and how it affects the habitat, is very important, and it's part of what DEC should be doing. So he said that Ken Kosin will be taking over for looking at developing a scope with USGS. And so he thought that both those phases were good, but he felt that for them to fund an engineering study is, I think he said, too far for us to do that. And he sent a request over to Christine Wheeler, who is in DOH, and she is the on the Bureau of Water Supply Protection. And she told me that DOH cannot fund studies. So we have to look at how can we fund this. And it's, as I mentioned, it's extremely important. But since we won't have the modeling results for about 2 years, we do have time to look for funding. So that's all I have on the salt.
What's the number? How much funding are we looking for?
We were looking for about $150,000. That's what we estimated it to be.
I thought it was like 450 for the initial. I'm sorry. I thought it was.
Yeah, for all 3 phases, it was
All 3 phases.
$450,000. Was $250 for the hydraulic model, $150 for us, and remainder for the habitat. Those were really kind of ballpark numbers, we're just estimating it for the joint legislature hearings in February, I think they were.
Hey, Paul, Nick Butler here. Did you say DOH can't fund or DEC can't fund?
DOH can't fund it, and DEC doesn't feel like it's in their realm of responsibility.
So
I'm glad they don't
to
feel
put
that.
it more specific, I thought the way they said it, DEC can't fund it because it's not a, I could have the terms wrong. One, it's not a construction project, and DOH can't fund it because it's not a water quality because it's not in the plants. So you end up in this muddy middle of the river.
Right.
Just
Oh, sorry, this is Brett. Just cutting in real quick, if you can hear me.
Yep,
Yeah.
we can hear you.
Yeah. So, yep. So DOH does administer some funding, whereas I'm saying that, but that's mostly regarded to infrastructure improvement projects, right? So, part of the DWSRF funding would be, like if an engineering study is done and determines that X and Y capital improvements are needed, then DWSRF funding can be applied to help pay for those things. Like for instance, a plant upgrade, and part of the fundable projects or eligible projects in the DWSRF program does include new source exploration, as well as infrastructure to, like, say, deal with worsening source quality. But specifically, the tricky part is getting the engineering study funded, and that is something that the DWSRF is not for. Which is not to say that there are no funding opportunities available, but we'll keep looking for those.
Brad
And
has his hand up.
Jim Tiernan also said that there'd be a unique solution for each one of the plants, which I disagree with. I think there's going to have to be some cooperation, like the plants in Ulster County buy water from New York City, and Dutchess County maybe builds a reservoir or pumps water through the Dutchess County big transmission line up to Poughkeepsie and all that. I mean, don't quote me on any of this, but there's a lot of things that really have to be thought about. And I think a solution is going to be that a joint solution. You're going to have to work together on this.
So Paul, are you planning on scheduling another meeting?
No, the next meeting is going to be held by DEC. I'm letting go of this since they should have been doing this to start with. And they're planning on having a meeting in about 6 weeks to go over the scopes that they developed with USGS.
Okay. Are they going to include you, us?
Yes, they are going to include us.
Make sure I know. That's one I'm gonna have to get my ass to.
Okay. All right. I'm going to move up. Any other
Gary?
questions on the front off? Yes.
Brad's here. Go ahead, Brad.
Oh, Brad, you have your hand?
There is climate change money. And the state's got climate change money. It's got a couple different climate change programs, and I think it's not too much of a task to relate this a major movement of the salt front to climate change as a funding source.
Yep. Brad, that's where I started with. And,
Oh, really?
They basically said, we haven't planned on that. We just planning on what would happen if the sea level rose and what kind of things are we going to have to do to fortify the infrastructure. But then they went on to say the salt front's definitely going to go up the river.
Right.
So it's something that just I think the regulatory agencies just totally missed.
Well, again, the only thing I would say is there is a lot of climate money out there, so.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm gonna move on. We have a couple minutes left. Paul, do you have anything else? Do you want to, anything else on the Esopus Creek Committee updates?
Oh, on the Esopus Creek, yes. The DEC and DPH, New York City DPH,
DEP.
DEP has proposed a new interim release program. The first one was, the one that's in existence now is from 2013. And what they're doing is they are changing the operation requirements. For example, if the water reaches a certain turbidity, they would shut down. After a certain period of time, they would flush the river, flush the Esopus. All that is gone now. And basically they're saying that Ulster County should make these decisions, not DEP. And obviously Ulster County is probably not qualified. They don't have the teams. They don't have all the expertise that New York City has or DEC. So it just seems like they're pointing off the liability to Ulster County. So if a flood happens or there's high turbidities, you would blame the county, not DEP. So what we did was DEC asked for comments by November 2nd. And thanks to Rebecca, we had an organizational meeting of our Ashokan committee. And we are going to ask them for an extension. And we're also going to ask for a separate meeting that would just deal with this. And we're asking for senior people to be involved in this presentation. And then we're saying that the comments shouldn't be due until 60 days after that presentation or February 1st of 2023, whichever is longer. So that's kind of where we are right now. And it's very interesting. New York City is doing some crazy stuff.
Can I just say it's a proposed change to the modified IRP, the interim release protocol, and that all of the organizations but one, though I think it's coming around so quickly, have signed on to a letter, including the Hudson 7. It's Catskill Mountain Keeper, it's Catskill Mountains Trout Unlimited, it's the Esopus Creek Conservancy, it's the Hudson Valley Farm Hub, it's the Hudson 7, it's RCAP Solutions, it's Riverkeeper and the Saugerties Lighthouse Conservancy are all making this request to the DEC. So thanks to the Hudson 7 for being engaged in the ARWG and all the other organizations here that are represented here who are also considered stakeholders on the and serving on the ARWG, the Ashokan Reservoir Work Group.
And I think it's a vital thing that we do. Thank you. All right. Any questions? Rebecca, I have to ask what the website is under other.
So this is your website, the Hudson 7's website.
Yeah.
On November 2nd, you have, last month we talked about getting to the bottom of it. You have to renew your website.
Oh, that's right.
For another 2 years. So the trajectory was that the city and town of Poughkeepsie paid $129.75 for 2 years to keep the website going. And it was decided back in November of 2020 that the village and town of Reidenbeck might contribute for the next 2 years. And so that the Hudson 7 would rotate the responsibility, because right now you don't have an entity set up for funds to move through and pay. So we have to figure out how we're going to deal with that now for the next 2 years. So the total is yes, $129.75 for 2022, 2023. 2023, 2024. My apologies.
This is the kind of thing that just goes away when you get the new format and setup,
Exactly.
the new MOU. This just goes away. It's so easy. But because of your makeup, this is difficult.
I will reach out to Elizabeth, supervisor for the town of Rhinebeck, and get her input, and then also talk to my board. Okay?
Okay, great. I'll follow up.
I thought we're looking for $129?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll write a
For
check.
2
For
years.
120. Who do we want to write it to? This is craziness. We're talking about drinking water for hundreds of thousands of
I
people.
know.
I thought that.
Oh, it's just one of those administrative things. It's going to be taken care of.
Elizabeth said, I'll just do it.
Yeah.
All right, let me find out. I'll find out. I don't know.
If you need a check, tell me. I'll give you a check.
I know. I just want to follow policy. That's all.
I mean,
I'm just trying to follow policy, Bill.
yeah, we have to. We don't have any choice. Because if it hits the fan, it's all going to be on the front page of the paper.
Yeah.
That's all you have there. So we'll sort that out. But that was last month we discussed just finding out what happened, and
I
that's
forgot about that. Yep. All right. Any other business?
there's no new actions on new business tonight. You're finished.
Hearing that, I'm making a motion to adjourn at 6:38.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you all.